hour previously when she had finished her tea and guiltily buried her nose in her book, instead of returning to the greenhouse to finish off a bulk order for 500 ivy-leaf pelargonium cuttings. Diana, unashamedly glistening with ambre solaire, reclined on a sun-lounger, the pleated skirt of her printed cotton dress spilling over the sides and brushing the flagstones. One elegant hand toyed with the underbelly of the Labrador lying beside her. The other drew swirling doodles in the margin of her sketchpad, which should have been filled, but was not, with commissioned designs for a cottage interior in Fowey. Anne, who had been struggling between intermittent dozes to conjure up 1,000 words on vaginal orgasm fact or fiction for an obscure magazine, was drawn up tight against the table, chin on hands, dark eyes staring down the long vista of landscaped garden in front of her. Phoebe glanced at her briefly, then turned to follow her gaze, peering over her spectacles across the wide expanse of lawn. "Good Lord," she exclaimed. Her gardener, a man of massive proportions, was pounding across the grass, naked to the waist, his huge belly lapping at his trousers like some monstrous tidal wave. The semi-nudity was surprising enough, for Fred held strong views about his position at Streech Grange. Among other things, this required Phoebe to whistle a warning of her approach in the garden so that he might clothe himself suitably for what he referred to as a parlez-vous, even in the heat of summer. "Perhaps he's won the pools," suggested Diana, but without conviction, as the three women watched his rapidly slowing advance. "Highly unlikely," countered Anne, pushing her chair away from the table. "Fred's inertia would demand a more powerful stimulus than filthy lucre to prompt this bout of activity." They watched the rest of Fred's approach in silence. He was walking by the time he reached the terrace. He paused for a moment, leaning one hand heavily on the low wall bordering the flagstones, catching his breath. There was a tinge of grey to the weathered cheeks, a rasp in his throat. Concerned, Phoebe gestured to Diana to pull forward a vacant chair. Then she stood up, took Fred's arm, and helped him into it. "Whatever's happened?" she asked anxiously.
"Oh, madam, something awful."
He was sweating profusely, unable to get the words out quickly. Perspiration ran in streams over his fat, brown breasts, soft and round like a woman's, and the smell was all-pervading, consuming the sweet scent of the roses which nodded in beds at the edge of the terrace. Aware of this and of his nakedness, he wrung his hands in embarrassment.
"I'm so sorry, madam."
Diana swung her legs off the lounger and sat up, twitching a rug off the back of her chair and placing it neatly across his shoulders. "You should keep yourself warm after a run like that, Fred." He wrapped the rug around him, nodding his appreciation. "What's happened, Fred?" Phoebe asked again.
"I don't rightly know how to say it."
She thought she saw compassion in his eyes.
"But it's got to be told."
"Then tell me," she prompted gently. "I'm sure it can't be that bad." She glanced at Benson, the yellow Labrador, still lying placidly by Diana's chair. "Has Hedges been run over?" He reached out a rough, mud-caked hand from between the folds of the rug, and with a familiarity that was quite out of character, placed it on hers and squeezed gently. The gesture was as brief as it was unexpected.
"There's a body in the old ice house, madam."
There was a moment's silence. "A body?" echoed Phoebe. "What sort of body?" Her voice was unemotional, steady. Anne flicked a glance in her direction. There were times, she thought, when her friend's composure frightened her.
"To tell you the truth, madam, I didn't look too close. It was a shock, coming on it the way I did."
He stared unhappily at his feet.
"Stepped on it, like, before I saw it, and there was a bit of a smell afterwards."
They all looked in fascination at his gardening boots, and he, regretting his impulsive statement, shuffled them awkwardly out of sight under the rug.
"It's all right, madam," he said. "Wiped them on the grass as soon as I could."
The cup and saucer in Phoebe's hand